Kansas City's earliest history, a 31-roomed mansion has been a part of our culture since 1881. On January 23, 1831, Harvey Merrick Vaile was born in Bennington County, Vermont. Vaile's family was threatened in their hometown, which suddenly had them move to New York in 1840.
And originally they're from New York, which is very important to remember because they were Yankees. People in Missouri didn't much care for Yankees. And so when they first moved here from New York, they lived in the Westport area of Kansas City.
He got most of his education while living in New York. In 1859, he relocated to West Kansas City to enter a law partnership. Vaile was an abolitionist and was a very strong supporter of Abraham Lincoln. He helped Kansas City create a Republican Party in the town. Around 1861, Harvey returned to New York where he met his beloved wife, Sophia Vaile. Sometime after the marriage, the newlywed couple took a honeymoon to France, where Harvey saw a Norman chateau that inspired him to build the Vaile Mansion. After returning from his honeymoon, Vaile and Colonel L.P. Williamson got into a star mail route contract. The government will hire people to carry mail from Independence to Santa Fe. Harvey became the president of the company that delivered freight and mail.
They moved in October of 1881, and Mr. Vaile had made most of his money because he had contracts with the federal government to deliver the mail routes from St. Louis, actually, and he controlled 1,100 mail routes, and that included the Santa Fe Trail, the Oregon, and the California Trail.
These stagecoaches were one of the quickest ways to deliver mail. They were flat-bottomed and lightweight, so they were able to carry more things. It held up to 6 passengers in spring-loaded leather seats. Vaile also owned multiple cattle ranches and thousands of acres.
They got married. He got indicted for mail fraud, him and his partners, and he had to go back and forth to Washington, D.C. and stand trial. There was 2 trials. First one was a hung jury, and the second trial he was found innocent, but 2 of his partners went to prison.
His first trial date was set for June 1, 1882, and lasted till September 1882. The jury did not reach a final verdict in the first trial, so a second one was put out. The second trial started December 4, 1882, and ended June 11, 1883. The jury came to the verdict of not guilty of all charges.
He arrived home, it was the night of February the 14th, Valentine's Day, and he discovered that his wife had died that morning from an overdose of laudanum.
Harvey had to travel to Washington, D.C. to stand his trials. While he was in D.C., Miss Vaile passed on Valentine's Day, February 14, 1883.
It was the night of February the 14th, Valentine's Day, and he discovered that his wife had died that morning from an overdose of laudanum. Now, laudanum is morphine opium, and it was a legal drug in those days. You could buy it across the counter for a headache, whatever. And so there he is. He's been indicted by the government. His wife is dead. Not a happy thing. So he lived here for 11 more years. He never remarried after his wife's death.
It was speculated that it may have been a suicide due to certain signs. The main sign was that the maid noticed Miss Vaile had sent a letter made out to Harvey on the mantel with no address, even though Harvey was still out on trial. After being proved innocent, Vaile came home to no wife in a house that was still being finished. The Second Empire, known as Napoleon III style, was a highly eclectic style of architecture and decorative arts. So if you were wondering where Vaile Mansion got its architecture that helped build the mansion, it was Asa Beebe Cross. On December 9, 1826, Cross was born in New Jersey. Asa was an American architect who studied under Thomas Walsh and John Johnson. He designed more than 1,000 structures. If you look closely, the Cross architectures were all in some similar form, but when you look at Vaile Mansion and see something different, and that's because of how clear and direct Harvey came to him. He was married to Rachel Janine Taylor. Rachel had a young son and later on had 5 more with Cross. Even though his children may not have taken over his legacy when he passed, August 18, 1894, he does have a grandchild that helps keep his name alive and live up to being in the family. Cross's grandson was an architect and designed the Power and Light Building, a landmark that stands on the Kansas City skyline today. Sadly, Cross, his wife, and kids didn't get to see what Vaile Mansion would end up looking like, but the Vaile Mansion is still doing great.